Chapter 1. The Arrangement. They say everyone has a price. Mine was exactly $500,000, the cost of keeping my family from losing everything. I never imagined my price would be determined while checking a billionaire's vital signs at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday. Miss Chen, Mr. Monroe is requesting to see you. I looked up from the nurse's station, my fourth coffee of the night growing cold in my hands. Sarah, one of the night shift nurses, wore an expression I couldn't quite read, something between amusement and concern. Which Mr. Monroe? I asked, though I already knew. Only one Monroe commanded that kind of tone.
Ethan.
Penthouse suite. Of course. The penthouse suite wasn't technically part of the hospital. It was a private wing that existed in a different tax bracket entirely. I'd been assigned to the Monroe case 3 days ago when their regular private nurse called in sick. 3 days of checking vitals, administering medication, and trying not to stare at a man who looked like he'd been carved from marble and dressed by Italian designers even in a hospital gown. The elevator ride to the top floor felt longer than usual. I caught my reflection in the polished doors, scrubs wrinkled from a 12-hour shift, dark hair escaping its ponytail, exhaustion painted under my eyes in shades of purple. Not exactly the image of someone about to meet with a billionaire CEO. The penthouse suite doors whispered open, revealing what could only be described as a 5-star hotel room masquerading as a medical facility. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the Seattle skyline, the space needle glittering in the distance. The hospital bed looked more comfortable than anything I'd ever slept on. Ethan Monroe sat in an armchair by the window, for Stan beside him, like a silent companion. He'd been admitted 4 days ago with pneumonia, severe enough to require hospitalization, but he was recovering well. What struck me wasn't his condition, but the fact that he was wearing actual pajamas. Silk ones. Who wore silk pajamas in a hospital? Billionaires, apparently. Ms. Chen. His voice was rough from the illness, but it still carried that unmistakable authority. Thank you for coming. It's literally my job, Mr. Monroe. I approached with my tablet, ready to check his vitals. How are you feeling? Any chest pain? Difficulty breathing? I need to hire you. My fingers froze over the tablet screen. I'm sorry, not as a nurse. He shifted in his chair, and I noticed the way he moved carefully, still protecting his ribs. I need you to pretend to be my fiancé. I actually laughed. It burst out of me before I could stop it. Inappropriate, unprofessional, and completely genuine. I'm sorry, did the fever come back? Because that sounded insane. His expression didn't change. Those storm gray eyes just watched me with unsettling intensity. I'm completely serious. Mr. Monroe.
Ethan.
Mr. Monroe, I emphasized, setting down my tablet with more force than necessary. I'm here to check your vitals, not participate in whatever bizarre fantasy the medication is causing. My grandmother is dying. That stopped me. His voice had changed, dropped the corporate authority, and revealed something raw underneath. I'm sorry, I said quietly and meant it. She's in hospice care in Boston. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. The doctors give her weeks, maybe a month. He leaned forward slightly, wincing. She has one wish before she dies. She wants to see me happily engaged. So get engaged. To whom? A bitter smile crossed his face. I've spent the last 15 years building Monroe Industries. I've dated, yes, but nothing serious. Nothing real. My grandmother knows this. She's been begging me to settle down for years, and I kept putting her off, thinking I had time. His jaw tightened. I don't have time anymore. I should have left. Should have checked his vitals, adjusted his and walked straight back to the nurse's station. Instead, I heard myself ask, why me? Because you're perfect. He said it matter-of-factly, like he was discussing a business acquisition. You're around my age, intelligent, presentable. You're a nurse, which my grandmother will love. She was a nurse during the Korean War. And most importantly, you need money. My spine stiffened. Excuse me? Your father's house. The one in Edmonds with the waterfront view. It's going into foreclosure next month. The floor seemed to tilt. How do you? I have people who gather information, Miss Chen. It's not personal. Well, he amended. Now it is. Your father had a stroke 8 months ago. Medical bills, combined with the existing mortgage and your mother's treatment for her MS, you're drowning in debt. Heat flooded my face, embarrassment mixed with anger. You had me investigated? I had everyone on my care team investigated. Standard procedure. He leaned back, and I saw the exhaustion in his eyes that matched my own. But when I realized I needed someone for this arrangement, you were the obvious choice. I can pay off your family's debts entirely. The house, the medical bills, everything. Plus $200,000 for you personally. The number hit me like a physical blow. $500,000 total. Enough to save everything. In exchange for what, exactly? My voice sounded distant to my own ears. 3 months. Maybe less, depending on. He trailed off, but we both knew what he meant. Depending on how long his grandmother lived. You'd come to Boston, meet my grandmother, play the role of my devoted fiancé. We'd visit her regularly, sell the story to my family. When she passes, we'd wait a respectful amount of time, then quietly end the engagement. You'd walk away debt-free with money to spare. That's insane. Your family would see through it immediately. Not if we do it right. He pulled out a folder from beside his chair. He'd prepared this, I realized with a start. He'd actually prepared a presentation. We'd establish a backstory. We met when I was admitted, cliché, but believable. We connected over late-night conversations, fell for each other quickly. Hospital romances happen. Mr. Monroe. $500,000 Olivia. The use of my first name felt intimate, dangerous. I can't just abandon my job, my family. You'd be saving your family. And I've already spoken to the hospital administrator. You could take a leave of absence, personal family matter. Your job would be waiting when you returned. He paused. Your father could keep his house. Your mother could get the treatment she needs without worrying about cost. You could stop working double shifts and actually sleep for more than 4 hours a night. How do you know about my shifts? Because you look like you're about to collapse, and yet here you are, still standing, still taking care of people. Something shifted in his expression, not quite soft, but human. I'm not asking you to do anything immoral, Olivia. No one gets hurt. My grandmother gets peace in her final days, believing I've found happiness. You get financial security. It's just business. Pretending to love someone isn't business. Isn't it? People marry for business reasons all the time. This is actually more honest. We both know exactly what we're getting. I walked to the window, needing distance. The city sprawled below, lights twinkling like fallen stars. Somewhere out there was my parents' house, the one my father had bought 40 years ago when Edmonds was affordable. The house where I'd learned to ride a bike in the driveway, where my mother had taught me to cook in the kitchen that overlooked the water. The house that the bank would take in 37 days. I need to think about it. You have until tomorrow night. I'm being discharged in 2 days. If we're doing this, we need to start immediately. I turn back to him. And if I say no, then I find someone else, and you find another way to save your family's home. No malice in his voice, just simple fact. But Olivia? We both know there isn't another way. Not in time. He was right. I'd spent 8 months exploring every option, loans, second mortgages, borrowing from friends who had nothing to spare. I'd picked up extra shifts until I was running on fumes and coffee. My mother had wanted to sell her wedding ring. My father had cried, actually cried, over what he called his failure. This is insane, I whispered. Yes, Ethan agreed. But sometimes insanity is the only practical solution. I picked up my tablet with shaking hands. I need to check your vitals. He stood, moving carefully to the bed. As I wrapped the blood pressure cuff around his arm, I was acutely aware of how close we were. He smelled like expensive soap and sickness, an oddly human combination. 120/80, I read. Heart rate is 72. You're recovering well. Physically, perhaps. His eyes met mine as I unwrapped the cuff. What about you, Olivia? How are you recovering? From what? From carrying the weight of your entire family on your shoulders. The kindness in his voice almost broke me. I'd been holding everything together for so long, being strong for my parents, pretending I had it under control. No one had asked me how I was managing in months. I should go, I said roughly. Other patients to check on. Tomorrow night, he reminded me as I headed for the door. That's all the time we have. I didn't respond, just let the door close behind me with a soft click. The rest of my shift passed in a blur. I checked vitals, administered medication, helped an elderly patient to the bathroom, and documented everything with mechanical efficiency. But my mind was in that penthouse suite, running through Ethan's proposal over and over. $500,000. My family's home saved. 3 months of my life. When my shift finally ended at 6 a.m., I didn't go home. Instead, I drove to Edmonds, to the house that held 30 years of family memories. I parked across the street and just stared at it in the early morning light. The blue shutters my father had painted the summer I turned 12. The garden where my mother grew tomatoes that actually tasted like something. The front porch where I'd kissed Danny Morrison for the first time before he deployed to Afghanistan and never came back. My phone buzzed. A text from my mother. Your father had a good night. Sleeping peacefully now. Don't forget to take care of yourself, sweetheart. I typed back. Always do, Mom. Love you. Another lie to add to all the others. I wasn't taking care of myself. I was barely surviving, held together by caffeine and stubbornness and the desperate need to fix everything. Maybe Ethan Monroe was right. Maybe sometimes you had to do something insane to survive. I sat there until the sun fully rose, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink. Then I drove home to my tiny studio apartment, stared at the water-stained ceiling, and made my decision. 24 hours later, I stood outside the penthouse suite again, wearing civilian clothes this time, jeans and a sweater, my hair down. My hands were shaking as I knocked. Come in. Ethan was dressed in actual clothes now, dark jeans and a button-down shirt that probably cost more than my rent. He looked better, healthier, but still tired. Being sick was exhausting, even for billionaires. I have conditions, I said without preamble. Something flickered in his eyes. Relief? I'm listening. Nothing physical beyond what's absolutely necessary for appearances. Hand-holding, maybe a kiss on the cheek. That's it. Agreed. I need everything in writing. Contract, payment terms, all of it. I want my family's debts paid off before we even go to Boston. My lawyers will have the contracts ready tomorrow. And when this is over, we never speak again. Clean break, no complications. He stood, crossing to his desk and pulling out a folder. That's the plan. 3 months, probably less. You play your part, I play mine, everyone gets what they need. I took the folder, hands still trembling. Inside was a preliminary agreement, shockingly detailed. Payment schedules, expected duties, confidentiality clauses, even a section on physical affection parameters. You really thought this through. I build billion-dollar deals, Olivia. The details matter. He moved closer, and I caught that expensive soap scent again. This is no different. We both enter this arrangement with clear expectations, execute the plan, and part ways professionally. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. It's just not easy. He extended his hand. Do we have a deal? I stared at his hand, strong, with long fingers and a callus on his right index finger from holding pens. A hand that had signed contracts worth millions, that had built an empire. A hand that was offering me salvation wrapped in deception. I thought of my father's tears, my mother's worry, the foreclosure notice that sat on my kitchen counter like a ticking bomb. I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, surprisingly gentle. Deal. Good. He didn't let go immediately. We start tomorrow. I'm being discharged at noon. We'll go directly to meet with my lawyers, sign the official contracts, and arrange the first payment transfer. Then we have 3 days to prepare before we fly to Boston. 3 days? My voice squeaked slightly. That's not enough time. It's all the time we have. My grandmother. He finally released my hand, running his own through his dark hair. She's fading faster than expected. We need to do this now. or it won't matter. The reality of what I'd agreed to hit me like cold water. This wasn't just a business arrangement. This was someone's grandmother, dying, wanting to see her grandson happy. And I was going to lie to her in her final days. I can't do this, I breathed. This is wrong. She's dying and we're going to give her peace. Ethan's voice was sharp now, almost desperate. Yes, it's a lie. Yes, it's not ideal. But she's in pain, Olivia. Constant pain. And the one thing that brings her joy is talking about my future, imagining me settled and happy. Is it really so wrong to give her that? But it's not real. Does that matter? If it makes her happy, if it gives her comfort in her final days, does the truth really matter more than her peace of mind? He turned away, shoulders tense. I've thought about this for weeks. Every scenario, every option. This is the best solution I could find. Not perfect, but the best. I wanted to argue, to find a moral high ground to stand on. But I kept thinking about my own parents, about the lies I'd told them. Everything's fine, Dad. Don't worry, Mom. What was the difference, really? Okay, I whispered. Okay, we do this. He turned back, and I saw the gratitude in his eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. I might be a terrible actress. A small smile crossed his face, the first real one I'd seen. Then we'll just have to practice. Practice? If we're going to convince my family, we need to be believable. That means knowing each other, understanding each other's mannerisms, being comfortable together. He gestured to the sitting area. So, let's start now. Tell me about yourself, Olivia Chen. Tell me everything. I sank into the chair across from him, suddenly exhausted. Everything is a lot. We have time. I'm not going anywhere tonight. So I told him. About growing up in Edmonds, about my father who'd immigrated from Taiwan in the 70s and built a life from nothing. About my mother, born in Montana, who'd fallen in love with a man who barely spoke English and learned to cook with chopsticks. About becoming a nurse because my grandmother, my father's mother, had died from a treatable condition because she'd been too scared to go to a hospital where no one spoke Mandarin. Ethan listened with an intensity that was almost uncomfortable. He asked questions, remembered details, built a picture of my life with the same focus he probably applied to business acquisitions. When I finally ran out of stories, the sky outside was dark again. Hours had passed. Your turn, I said. Tell me about Ethan Monroe. He leaned back, and I saw the exhaustion in the lines around his eyes. What do you want to know? Everything. If I'm going to pretend to love you, I should probably know the basics. Something flickered across his face at the word love, but it was gone too quickly to read. I'm 34. Born in Boston, raised between there and New York. Boarding school, then Harvard for undergrad and business school. Took over Monroe Industries at 28 when my father retired. That's a resume, not a life. He smiled slightly. Perceptive. What else? What do you do for fun? What's your favorite food? What's the last book you read? I work. Anything my chef prepares. And I don't remember, something about market analysis probably. Jesus, you're boring. He actually laughed, sharp and surprised. Excuse me? You're a walking corporate profile. There has to be more to you than that. I leaned forward. Come on. Give me something real. Something your family would expect your fiancé to know. He was quiet for a long moment, his fingers drumming against the arm of his chair. I'm terrified of disappointing my grandmother. The honesty in his voice caught me off guard. She basically raised me, he continued. My parents were busy with the company, always traveling, always working. Gran was the one who taught me to read, who came to my school events, who actually listened when I talked. She's the only person who's ever looked at me and seen Ethan, not the Monroe heir. And you think she's disappointed in you? I think she worries I've sacrificed too much for success. That I'm going to end up alone in a mansion with nothing but money for company. He met my eyes. She's not wrong to worry. The vulnerability in his admission made my chest tight. This wasn't the billionaire CEO anymore. This was just a man, scared of losing the person who mattered most. She's going to love you, he said quietly. You're everything she's wanted for me, Kind, genuine, smart. She'll see right through me. See how I don't deserve you. Ethan. Which will make it more believable. His business mask slid back into place. No one will question why you'd fall for me. Money, status, all that. But they'll wonder what I did to deserve someone like you. That wondering will sell the story. I should have been flattered. Instead, I felt sad. Is that really how you see yourself? As someone who only has money to offer? Isn't that what this arrangement is? You're here for the money, Olivia. Let's not pretend otherwise. He was right, and the truth of it stung. You're right. This is business. So, let's treat it that way. I stood, pulling out my phone. Give me your number. We should be able to contact each other easily. We exchanged information, and seeing his name pop up in my contacts felt surreal. Ethan Monroe. Billionaire. Fake fiancé. I should go, I said. Big day tomorrow. Olivia. He stood as well, moving closer. This is going to work. I promise. 3 months, and then you're free. Free and debt-free. Yeah. I forced a smile. Living the dream. I was halfway to the door when he spoke again. For what it's worth, I am sorry that circumstances forced you into this position. I looked back at him, this strange man who'd turned my life upside down in 48 hours. Me too. The next morning, I sat across from my parents at their kitchen table, maybe for one of the last times, and told them the first of many lies. I'm taking a leave of absence from work. There's a special training program in Boston. 3 months. The hospital's sponsoring it. My mother's face lit up. Olivia, that's wonderful. What kind of training? Advanced cardiac care. The life flowed easier than I'd expected. It's a great opportunity. My father studied me with those sharp eyes that had always seen too much. This is sudden. I know. But opportunities like this don't wait. I reached across to take his hand. And, Dad, I have good news. I got a signing bonus. Enough to cover the mortgage payments for a while. That wasn't a lie, technically. I would have the money, just not from any training program. Sweetheart, you don't have to. My mother started. I want to. Please. Let me do this. My father's eyes were wet. You're a good daughter, Olivia. The guilt was acid in my stomach, but I smiled. I learned from the best. After breakfast, I drove to meet Ethan at a law office downtown, the kind with marble floors and art that cost more than cars. His lawyers were efficient and thorough, walking me through a contract so detailed it covered scenarios I never even considered. Clause 7.3 covers social media presence, one lawyer explained. No posting about the relationship without prior approval from Mr. Monroe's team. Because God forbid the world know I exist, I muttered. Ethan, seated beside me, hid a smile. We'll need to coordinate our story, that's all. 3 hours later, I signed my name on a dozen pages and Ethan did the same. Just like that, I was contractually obligated to pretend to love a man I barely knew. The first payment will be transferred today, Ethan's head lawyer said. The mortgage company and medical billing departments should see the funds by end of business tomorrow. It was real. This was actually happening. As we left the office, Ethan touched my elbow lightly. Lunch? We should discuss Boston. I should get home, pack. Olivia. We have a deal. That means spending time together, getting comfortable with each other. Starting now. He wasn't wrong. So I found myself in a private room at a restaurant where the menu didn't list prices, never a good sign for my anxiety, picking at a salad that cost more than my grocery budget. Tell me about your grandmother, I said. What should I know? Ethan's expression softened immediately. Her name is Eleanor Monroe. She's 87, sharp as ever despite the cancer. She'll ask you 1,000 questions and remember every answer, so keep your story straight. No pressure. She's formidable, but kind. She'll test you though. See if you're really committed to me, or just after the money. Ironic. He smiled wryly. Yes, well, she doesn't need to know the truth. As far as Gran is concerned, we met 3 weeks ago, had an instant connection, and I proposed impulsively because I knew you were the one. You? Impulsive? That's the most unbelievable part of this story. which is exactly why she'll believe it. She's always saying I'm too calculated, too controlled. Me doing something reckless for love? That's her dream come true. Okay, so we met 3 weeks ago. Where? The hospital? Too recent. I've been sick for 4 days. Let's say we met a month ago at a charity gala. You were there with. He thought for a moment. A friend from nursing school. I saw you across the room, was immediately intrigued, engineered an introduction. Smooth. I can be when motivated. His eyes met mine, and there was something in them I couldn't quite read. We talked all night. You were different from the usual crowd, genuine, passionate about your work. I asked for your number. We started seeing each other. And you kept it quiet because I always keep my personal life private, but also because it was new, fragile. We wanted to see if it was real before going public. He leaned back. Then I got sick, you took care of me, and I realized I didn't want to waste any more time. I proposed in the hospital. That's actually kind of romantic. It needs to be. Gran will expect romance. He paused. She'll also expect physical affection. We'll need to practice. Practice what? Being comfortable touching each other. Holding hands, sitting close. We can't flinch away from each other in front of my family. My heart rate kicked up. The contract said nothing beyond. I know. I remember. Hand-holding, maybe a kiss on the cheek. But we need to be natural about it, not awkward. He extended his hand across the table. Start simple. Hold my hand. I stared at his hand like it might bite me. This is ridiculous. This is necessary.
Come on, Olivia.
We're engaged. Act like it. I reached across and placed my hand in his. His fingers curled around mine, warm and sure. It felt nice. Dangerously nice.
See?
Not so terrible. His thumb brushed across my knuckles, and electricity skittered up my arm. Now talk to me. Tell me about your day, like we've done this 1,000 times. My day? I signed a contract to fake date a billionaire. Pretty standard Tuesday. He laughed, real and surprised. You're going to be a terrible actress if you can't keep a straight face. Maybe I'm acting right now. Maybe this is my character, snarky nurse who gives billionaires reality checks. I think I like this character. His eyes sparkled with something that might have been genuine amusement. Keep her. We sat there for another hour, hands linked across the table, building our story. With each detail, each shared laugh, it felt less like lying and more like something else. Something dangerous. When we finally left, Ethan walked me to my car, a 10-year-old Honda that looked even worse parked next to his Mercedes. Nice ride, he said diplomatically.
It runs.
That's all I need. I unlocked it, then turned back. So, we're really doing this? We're really doing this. He pulled out a small box from his jacket pocket. Speaking of which, inside was a ring. Not just any ring, an engagement ring with a diamond so large it probably had its own zip code. I can't wear that, I breathed. What if I lose it? What if someone mugs me? It's insured, and you need to wear it. We're engaged, remember? He took my hand again, and I didn't pull away. May I? I nodded, speechless, as he slid the ring onto my finger. It fit perfectly, heavy and foreign and terrifying. How did you know my size? I have people who know things. At my expression, he added quickly, the hospital keeps employee files. Your glove size is documented. That's creepy and efficient. Welcome to my world. He still held my hand, both of us staring at the ring, catching the afternoon light. It looks good on you. It looks expensive. Same thing in my family. He finally released my hand, stepping back. Our flight to Boston is at 9 a.m. on Friday. I'll pick you up at 6. 6 a.m.? That's inhumane. That's business class to Boston with a schedule to keep. He opened my car door for me, a gentleman despite everything. Get some rest, Olivia. The next 3 months are going to be intense. As I drove away, I kept glancing at the ring on my finger, catching flashes of light that seemed to mock me. What had I gotten myself into? My phone rang through the car's speakers. My mother. Hi, Mom. Honey, the strangest thing happened. The mortgage company called. They said our account was paid current, plus 6 months in advance. They must have made a mistake. I gripped the steering wheel tighter.
No mistake, Mom.
I told you I got a signing bonus. But, Olivia, this is too much money.
Mom, please.
Let me do this. Let me help.
She was crying now.
Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you. After we hung up, I pulled over, hands shaking too badly to drive. This was real. The money was real. The arrangement was real. I looked at the ring again, this massive symbol of a lie. But if this lie saved my family, was it really so wrong? I didn't have an answer. So I started the car and drove home, the ring heavy on my finger, the weight of what I'd agreed to heavier still on my conscience. 3 months. I could do anything for 3 months. Couldn't I? Friday morning arrived too quickly. I stood in my apartment at 5:45 a.m., staring at my suitcase and trying not to hyperventilate. The knock on my door was precisely on time. Ethan stood in my hallway looking unfairly good for 6 a.m., dark jeans, a cashmere sweater, leather jacket. He took in my apartment with one sweep of his eyes, and I saw him note the size, the cheap furniture, the water stain on the ceiling I'd stopped noticing months ago. Ready? He asked.
No.
I grabbed my suitcase anyway. But let's go. His driver loaded my luggage into the town car, my battered suitcase looking sad next to Ethan's designer luggage. The drive to the airport passed in nervous silence, broken only by Ethan reviewing the story on his phone. We met at the Children's Hospital Charity Gala on October 15th, he recited. You wore a blue dress. We talked about healthcare accessibility. I asked for your number at 11:47 p.m. You remember the exact time? My grandmother will expect details. He looked up from his phone. She'll also expect me to remember what you wore, how you smiled, the exact moment I knew I was falling for you. And when was that? In our fake story. He was quiet for a moment, looking out the window at Seattle disappearing behind us. The second date. We went to that Italian place on Capitol Hill, Spine-ass. You ordered something I'd never heard of, explained the entire history of the dish with so much passion that I forgot to eat my own meal. That's when I knew. The detail in his story was impressive and slightly unnerving. You've really thought about this. I told you. Details matter.
His phone buzzed.
That's my assistant. Gran's had a good morning, alert, and asking when we're arriving. That's a good sign. Or she's rallying to meet the fake fiancé. Either way, we need to be convincing. He reached over and took my hand, and I managed not to flinch.
Progress.
Last chance to back out, Olivia. I looked at our hands, at the ring catching the morning light, at this man who was offering me salvation wrapped in deception. I signed a contract. I don't back out of my commitments. Good. His fingers tightened briefly. Neither do I. The flight to Boston was surreal. Business class meant actual beds, champagne I was too nervous to drink, and a level of service that made me uncomfortable. Ethan worked on his laptop most of the flight, occasionally filling me in on family members I'd be meeting. My parents, Richard and Catherine, are formal. They'll be polite but distant. That's normal for them. Sounds warm. They run Monroe Industries board. Everything is business to them, including family. He closed his laptop, rubbing his eyes. My sister, Amanda, is different. She's going to interrogate you. She's protective. Of you? The billionaire CEO. Of our grandmother. Amanda's the one who's been with Gran through all of this, the treatments, the doctors, the bad days. She'll want to make sure you're real. Awesome. No pressure. Just be yourself. Amanda appreciates authenticity. I'm authentically terrified. He smiled slightly. That might actually help. You're supposed to be nervous about meeting the family. Use it. When we landed in Boston, another town car was waiting. The drive took us out of the city and into suburban wealth, estates hidden behind stone walls and ancient trees. The Monroe family home turned out to be a literal mansion, all brick and ivy and old money. Holy shit, I breathed. Language. But he was smiling. Welcome to the family estate. Try not to look too impressed. You're marrying me, remember? You've supposedly been here before.
Right.
Because I regularly visit mansions. But I straightened my shoulders and tried to look like this was normal. Just another day, just another enormous house that probably had a name. The front door opened before we reached it, and a woman emerged, early 30s, sharp suit, shrewd eyes. Amanda, I guessed immediately.
Ethan.
She hugged him tightly, and I saw the real affection there. You look better. Still too thin. Nice to see you too, sis. He turned to me, and his arms slid around my waist with practiced ease. Amanda, this is Olivia. The fiancé. Amanda's eyes swept over me, assessing. The one Ethan's been keeping secret for a month. Guilty. I offer my hand, and she shook it firmly. It's nice to finally meet you. Ethan's told me so much. I'm sure he has. Amanda's smile didn't quite reach her eyes. Come in. Gran's resting now, but she's been asking about you all morning. Fair warning, she's planning to interrogate you at dinner. The inside of the house was exactly what I'd expected. Antique furniture, oil paintings, the kind of thick carpet that swallowed sound. Amanda led us through a maze of rooms to what she called the family wing. Your old room is ready, she told Ethan, then looked at me. I've prepared the guest suite next door for Olivia. Actually, Ethan said smoothly, his arm tightening around my waist, Olivia will stay in my room. We're engaged, Amanda. My heart stopped. That wasn't part of the contract. Amanda's eyebrows rose. Gran's old-fashioned, Ethan. Separate rooms until the wedding. Gran's also realistic. We're adults. His voice carried that CEO authority. Besides, Olivia's used to sleeping next to me. The hospital doesn't exactly provide separate beds. I wanted to kill him.
Slowly.
But I forced a smile. Whatever makes everyone comfortable. Amanda studied us for another long moment, then shrugged. Your call. Don't traumatize Gran with public displays of affection, though. Her heart can't take the excitement. She left us at a door down a long hallway. Ethan opened it, revealing a bedroom that was bigger than my entire apartment. King-sized bed. Sitting area. Attached bathroom that probably had heated floors. What the hell? I hissed the moment the door closed. The contract specifically said. I know what the contract said. He set his bag down, running a hand through his hair. But separate rooms would look suspicious. We're engaged. We're in love. We can't sleep apart for 3 months. So, we're actually sharing a bed? The bed is enormous. We'll put pillows between us. It's fine. At my expression, he softened slightly. I'm not going to touch you, Olivia. I promise. This is just for appearances. You should have warned me.
I know. I'm sorry.
I thought Amanda would insist on separate rooms given Gran's traditional values. He loosened his tie, a nervous gesture I hadn't seen before. We'll make it work. I spend half the night working anyway. You probably won't even notice I'm there. A knock interrupted my response. Ethan? A woman's voice, older, carrying authority even through the door. Eleanor wants to meet Olivia before dinner. Ethan's expression shifted immediately, nervousness replacing confidence. We'll be right there, Mom. He turned to me, and I saw the fear in his eyes. This is it. Last chance to run screaming. I signed a contract. I repeated, trying to convince myself as much as him. Let's go meet your grandmother. He took my hand, and this time I held tight. We were in this together now. The walk through the house felt like a death march. Every step brought us closer to the lie, closer to the point of no return. Ethan's mother, Ethan Monroe, ice blonde and elegant, waited outside a door at the end of the hallway.
Ethan.
She kissed his cheek with the warmth of someone greeting a business associate. Her eyes landed on me. You must be Olivia. Mrs. Monroe. It's an honor. Catherine, please. We'll be family soon. Her smile was polite and utterly empty. Mother is waiting. She's having a good day, thank God. Try not to tire her. She opened the door to reveal a sun-filled room that had been converted into a medical suite. Hospital bed, monitors for stands, all the equipment I knew intimately from work. But there were also flowers everywhere, photographs covering the walls, a lifetime of memories competing with the machinery of dying. And in the bed, propped up on pillows, was Eleanor Monroe. She was tiny. Cancer had stolen her body's strength, but her eyes were sharp and bright. Those eyes landed on me and I felt seen, truly seen, in a way that made my stomach drop. "So," Eleanor said, her voice surprisingly strong, "this is the girl who's captured my grandson's heart." Ethan moved to her bedside, kissing her forehead with such tenderness it made my chest ache. "Gran, this is Olivia Chen." "Olivia, my grandmother, Eleanor." I approached the bed, suddenly aware of every movement, every expression. This woman was dying. This woman loved Ethan more than anything. This woman I was about to lie to. "Mrs. Monroe." "Eleanor, dear." Or "Gran, if you're comfortable with that." She extended a frail hand, and I took it gently. Her skin was paper-thin, her grip weak, but her gaze could have melted steel. "Come closer. Let me look at you." I sat in the chair beside the bed, acutely aware of Ethan standing behind me, his hand coming to rest on my shoulder. "You're beautiful," Eleanor said finally. "But that's not why Ethan chose you. My grandson has never cared much about beauty. So tell me, Olivia Chen, why you? What makes you special?" The question was a trap, and we both knew it. "I don't think I am special," I said honestly. "I'm just me. A nurse who works too many hours and drinks too much coffee. But Ethan seems to think I'm worth his time, though I haven't figured out why yet." Eleanor's laugh was sharp and delighted, self-deprecating and honest. "I like you already." She squeezed my hand. "Tell me how you met." Ethan was maddeningly vague on the phone. So I told her. The charity gala, the blue dress I'd borrowed, the conversation about healthcare that stretched into hours. Ethan added details. How I'd laughed at his joke about hospital administrators, how I'd stolen a breadstick from his plate, how he'd known before the night ended that I was different. We'd practiced this story, rehearsed every detail. But sitting here, holding this dying woman's hand while she hung on every word, the life felt heavier than ever. And the proposal? Eleanor's eyes sparkled. "I want every detail." Ethan moved to sit on the edge of the bed, taking his grandmother's other hand. "I got pneumonia, my own fault, working too hard, ignoring warning signs. Ended up in the hospital, and by pure coincidence, Olivia was assigned to my care team." "Fate," Eleanor murmured. "Or luck. She took care of me, yelled at me for being a stubborn patient, made me laugh even when breathing hurt." His voice softened, and I realized he was telling the truth, just wrapping it in fiction. And I realized I was an idiot. I'd been dragging my feet, afraid of commitment, afraid of changing my life. But lying in that hospital bed, I thought, what if I'd died? What if I'd wasted my chance? He looked at me, and something in his eyes made my breath catch. So I asked her. No ring, no plan, just a desperate question at 2 a.m. in a hospital room. I asked if she'd marry me. "And what did you say, dear?" Eleanor asked me. I thought about that moment in the hospital when Ethan had first proposed this arrangement. The desperation in his voice. The fear. The hope. I said yes. I whispered. Because he looked at me like I was the answer to a question he'd been asking his whole life. Eleanor's eyes filled with tears. That's how my herald looked at me. God, I miss that man. She pulled both our hands together, placing Ethan's over mine. You take care of each other. Promise me. This world is hard and cruel, and love is the only thing that makes it bearable. We promise, Gran, Ethan said roughly. I couldn't speak past the lump in my throat, so I just nodded. We sat with her for another hour, talking about everything and nothing. She asked about my family, my work, my dreams. I answered honestly when I could, carefully when I couldn't. Ethan watched me the entire time, his hand never leaving mine. Finally, Eleanor's eyes started to close. I'm tired, darlings. But Olivia, she focused on me one last time. Thank you for loving my boy. He needs someone who sees him, really sees him, not just the Monroe name and fortune. You do that. I can tell. Get some rest, Gran, Ethan said softly. We'll see you at dinner. Outside the room, I barely made it 5 steps before my knees gave out. Ethan caught me, holding me up as I gasped for air. I can't do this, I choked out. She's dying, and I'm lying to her, and she's so happy and… Breathe, Olivia. Just breathe. This is wrong. This is so wrong. Is it? He turned me to face him, hands on my shoulders.
She's happy.
For the first time in months, Amanda says, Gran is genuinely happy. She's not thinking about the pain or the cancer or dying. She's thinking about the future, about hope. Is that really so wrong? But it's not real. It's real to her. And that's what matters. His grip tightened. 3 months, Olivia. We can give her 3 months of happiness. Don't fall apart on me now. I wanted to argue, to find a way out. But he was right. Eleanor was happy. The joy in her eyes had been genuine. And I'd signed a contract. My family's home was saved because of this lie. Okay. I breathed. Okay. I can do this. I know you can. He pulled me into a hug, and I let myself lean against him for just a moment. He was solid, warm, steady. You were perfect in there. She loves you already. She loves who she thinks I am. Maybe that's the same thing. He pulled back, studying my face. Come on. Amanda's organized a family dinner. Time to face the rest of the firing squad. Dinner was exactly as awkward as I'd feared. The dining room could have seated 20, but tonight it was just family. Ethan, me, Amanda, Catherine, and Richard Monroe, Ethan's father. Richard was an older version of Ethan, same sharp eyes, same calculating expression. He'd barely acknowledged me during introductions, already back on his phone before we sat down. So, Olivia, Catherine said as the first course appeared, soup that probably had a French name I couldn't pronounce. Ethan mentioned you're a nurse. How practical. The disdain was subtle, but unmistakable. I love my work, I said evenly. There's something meaningful about helping people on their worst days. Of course. Catherine's smile was sharp. And I'm sure the salary is adequate. For what it is. Mom, Amanda warned. I'm simply making conversation. Catherine turned those cold eyes on me. I imagine the Monroe family wealth must be quite an adjustment for you. The implication was clear. Gold digger. Actually, I haven't adjusted at all. I set down my spoon carefully. Ethan and I keep our finances completely separate. I still work my shifts, pay my own bills. The only thing that's changed is that I'm in love with your son. How modern, Catherine murmured, but she looked slightly impressed. It's one of the things I love about her, Ethan said, his hand finding mine under the table. Olivia doesn't need my money. She'd be happy if I drove a Honda and lived in a studio apartment. Well, thank God you don't, Richard muttered, finally looking up from his phone. The Monroe name stands for something. Excellence. Success. Standards. His eyes landed on me. I trust you understand the responsibility that comes with this family. I understand that I'm marrying Ethan, not the Monroe Corporation. I kept my voice level despite my racing heart. And I plan to support him as his wife, not as an employee. Silence fell over the table. Amanda hid a smile behind her wine glass. Catherine looked like she'd bitten into something sour. Richard just stared at me. Then Ethan laughed, genuine and surprised. See? I told you she was perfect. The rest of dinner passed in a blur of passive-aggressive comments from Catherine, dismissive grunts from Richard, and knowing looks from Amanda. By the time dessert arrived, my face hurt from forced smiling. If you'll excuse me, I said finally. I'm exhausted from the flight. Ethan, I'll meet you upstairs. I'll come with you. He stood immediately. Early day tomorrow. We made our escape, his hand on the small of my back as we navigated back through the mansion. The moment his bedroom door closed behind us, I collapsed onto the sitting room sofa. Your family is terrifying.
Yeah.
He loosened his tie, shrugging off his jacket. That was them being polite. Jesus. I kicked off my shoes. Your mom thinks I'm a gold digger. Your dad barely acknowledged my existence. And Amanda's smart enough to figure out we're lying eventually. Amanda won't say anything even if she does. He poured 2 glasses of whiskey from a decanter by the window, handing me one. She cares about Gran being happy. That's all that matters to her. I took a sip, the burn welcome after the tension of dinner. This is insane. All of this. Welcome to the Monroe family. He settled into the chair across from me, looking as exhausted as I felt. You did great, by the way. Standing up to my mother like that, most people are too intimidated. Yeah, well, I'm already pretending to be your fiancé and sharing your bed. Might as well go all in on the insanity. His expression flickered at the mention of sharing the bed. About that. I can sleep on the sofa. It's fine. You were right. The bed's huge. We'll manage. I finished my whiskey in one long swallow, but I'm exhausted. Mind if I claim the bathroom first? Go ahead. The bathroom was obscene, marble everything, a tub that could fit 3 people, a shower with more jets than I could count. I took the fastest shower of my life, changed into my pajamas, thank God I'd packed the modest ones, and brushed my teeth while staring at myself in the mirror. What was I doing? This was crazy. I was in Boston, in a mansion, pretending to be engaged to a billionaire, about to share a bed with a man I barely knew. But my family's house was saved. My mother could get her treatments. My father wasn't crying himself to sleep anymore. Sometimes crazy was the only option that made sense. When I emerged, Ethan was already in the bed. On the far left side, a wall of pillows constructed down the middle like a modern-day bundling board. I made a barrier, he said, not looking up from his phone. Very Victorian of me. Despite everything, I laughed. Your grandmother would approve. She really likes you, you know. That wasn't an act. I like her too. I climbed into the bed, staying carefully on my side of the pillow wall, which makes this feel even worse. I know. He finally set down his phone, turning off the bedside lamp. The room plunged into darkness, broken only by moonlight through the windows. But we're giving her something precious. Hope.
Peace.
Joy in her final days. That counts for something. Does it count enough? He was quiet for a long moment. It has to. I lay there in the darkness, acutely aware of him just feet away. I could hear his breathing, slow and steady. Could feel the dip in the mattress from his weight. Ethan? I whispered. Yeah. Thank you. For saving my family's house. Whatever else happens, whatever this costs me, thank you. You're the one doing me a favor, Olivia. Don't forget that. But as I drifted off to sleep in a stranger's bed, in a stranger's house, wearing a stranger's ring, I wasn't sure who was really helping whom. And I definitely wasn't sure what would happen when this was all over. What happened when 3 months ended, and we were supposed to just walk away. What happened when the lie became more comfortable than the truth? I fell asleep with those questions echoing in my mind, and dreamed of storm-gray eyes and promises I wasn't sure either of us could keep. Chapter 2. Playing house. They say practice makes perfect. What they don't tell you is that sometimes practicing a lie can make it feel like truth. I woke up disoriented, tangled in sheets that cost more than my car, in a room flooded with morning light. For a blissful moment, I forgot where I was. Then I felt warmth against my back. I froze. The pillow wall had failed. Somehow during the night, Ethan and I had gravitated toward each other, and now he was curved around me, one arm draped over my waist, his breath warm against my neck. He was still asleep. I could tell from his breathing, deep and even, which meant I could extract myself without making this awkward. I started to move, slowly, carefully. His arm tightened. Don't, he murmured, voice rough with sleep. Cold.
Ethan.
Wake up. 5 more minutes. We're cuddling. That's not part of the contract. That woke him. He jerked back so fast he nearly fell off the bed.
Shit. Sorry.
I didn't. The pillows must have. It's fine. I sat up, running hands through my tangled hair. We were both asleep. No harm done. But my heart was racing, and I could still feel the imprint of his body against mine. Dangerous. This was dangerous. A knock on the door saved us from the awkward silence.
Ethan?
Olivia? Amanda's voice. Gran wants breakfast with you both. She's having a good morning. We'll be down in 20, Ethan called back. The moment the footsteps retreated, he turned to me. We need to talk about boundaries. You think? I'm serious, Olivia. Last night, this morning, that can't happen again. I gave you my word I wouldn't. It was an accident. We were both unconscious. Let's just forget it. I grabbed my clothes and headed for the bathroom. 20 minutes. I'll be ready. I locked the door and leaned against it, trying to slow my pounding heart. It was just body heat. Just two people unconsciously seeking warmth in their sleep. It meant nothing. So, why did it feel like everything had just gotten more complicated? Eleanor was in the sunroom, surrounded by flowers and morning light, looking stronger than she had the night before. The nurse, a kind-faced woman in her 50s, was adjusting her as we entered. There they are. Eleanor's face lit up. My beautiful couple. Come, sit, eat with me. I can't eat much, but I can watch you enjoy breakfast. The spread was ridiculous. French toast, eggs, bacon, fresh fruit, pastries that looked like art. I'd lived on granola bars and vending machine coffee for so long I'd forgotten what a real breakfast looked like. Eat, eat, Eleanor urged. You're too thin, Olivia. Doesn't my grandson feed you? I feed myself, I said, loading my plate. Ethan's usually too busy working to remember food exists. That sounds like him. Eleanor smiled fondly at Ethan. Always working. Even as a boy, everything was so serious, so focused. I used to worry he'd forget how to have fun. He's getting better, I said, glancing at Ethan. I'm teaching him the revolutionary concept of work-life balance. Good luck with that, Amanda said from the doorway, carrying her own coffee. We've all been trying for years. Eleanor's expression shifted, becoming more focused, more intense. Actually, there's something I wanted to discuss with you both. About the wedding. My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. The wedding. Well, yes, dear. You are engaged. Eleanor's eyes sparkled. And I know it's terribly selfish of me, but I'd like to see it. The wedding. Before She trailed off, but the meaning was clear. Grand, Ethan said carefully. The doctor said weeks, possibly a month. Maybe more if I'm stubborn, which we all know I am. She reached for his hand. I'm not asking for a big society wedding, Ethan. Just something simple, intimate, family, and close friends. Something I can attend and remember. Eleanor, I started, my mind racing through the implications. That's incredibly sweet, but planning a wedding takes time. We have time. The hospice nurse says I'm holding steady. Her grip tightened on Ethan's hand. Please. This is my last wish. To see my grandson marry the woman he loves. The trap closed around us perfectly. How could we refuse? What excuse could possibly work? Ethan's eyes met mine across the table, and I saw the same panic I felt. Of course, Gran, he said finally. If that's what you want, we'll make it happen. Wonderful. Eleanor clapped her hands together weakly. Catherine, I'll need your help with arrangements. And Amanda, you'll be maid of honor, of course. Wait, I interrupted. How soon are we talking? 3 weeks. Eleanor looked between us hopefully. Is that enough time? I know it's rushed, but 3 weeks. We were supposed to fake an engagement for 3 months, not actually get married. This was spiraling out of control. 3 weeks is perfect, Ethan said smoothly, though his hand found mine under the table and squeezed hard. Right, darling? Perfect, I echoed faintly. Absolutely perfect. The moment we escaped back to the bedroom, I exploded. We can't actually get married. That's not what I signed up for. I know. The contract said fake engagement, not fake marriage. Those are very different things, Ethan. I know. He paced the room like a caged animal. But what was I supposed to say? Sorry, Gran, we're not actually in love. This is all a business arrangement. That would kill her faster than the cancer. So instead we're getting married. Married Ethan. With a license and everything. It'll be real, but not real. He turned to face me. We'll get married, make Gran happy, and when she passes, we'll quietly divorce. Happens all the time. To people who were actually in relationships first. I collapsed onto the sofa. This is insane. This is beyond insane. The alternative is telling her the truth. His voice softened. Can you do that? Can you walk into that sunroom and tell a dying woman that her grandson's happiness is a lie? I covered my face with my hands. He was right, and I hated it. The contract needs to be amended. I want that in writing. The marriage is temporary, divorce is guaranteed, and I get additional compensation.
Done.
I'll have my lawyers draft new paperwork today. He sat beside me, careful not to touch. I'm sorry, Olivia. I know this wasn't the deal. No, it really wasn't. I looked at him through my fingers. I'm going to be your wife. Even temporarily, even fake, that's huge. I know.
Do you?
Because you're acting like this is just another contract amendment. It's not. Something raw crossed his face. Trust me, I understand the weight of what we're doing. But I don't have another option.
Do you?
I didn't. My family's debts were paid. My parents thought I was in Boston for a training program. I'd already lied to everyone I loved. What was one more lie? One much bigger lie that came with a marriage certificate? Okay. I breathed. Okay. We do this. We get married, we make your grandmother happy, and then we divorce. Clean, simple, business. Business, he agreed. But the way he was looking at me, like I was saving his life instead of just playing a role, didn't feel like business at all. The next 3 weeks were a tornado of wedding planning, family dinners, and carefully choreographed affection. Catherine Monroe took over the arrangements with the efficiency of a military general, ignoring most of my input while making it look like she was including me. I think the lilies would be lovely. I started during one planning session. Orchids are more elegant, Catherine interrupted. The Monroe family has used orchids for every wedding for 3 generations. Of course. Orchids are great. Amanda, at least, was trying to help. You know you can push back, right? It's your wedding. Is it though? I muttered. She gave me a sharp look, but didn't respond. The worst part was how good Ethan and I were getting at the charade. The touches came naturally now, his hand on my back, my fingers linked with his, the way he'd pull me close when his mother was watching. We'd fall into bed each night with our pillow wall, and wake up tangled together more often than not, neither of us mentioning it anymore. It should have felt wrong. Instead, it felt dangerous how right it was becoming. We spent every afternoon with Eleanor, and those were the moments I dreaded and treasured simultaneously. She'd talk about her life, her marriage to Harold, the love they'd shared for 53 years. He was impossible, she said one afternoon, her voice thin but warm with memory. Stubborn, opinionated, drove me absolutely mad. But God, I loved him. Every frustrating moment was worth it for the joy. How did you know? I asked. That he was worth it? Because being with him felt like coming home. Even when we were fighting, even when things were hard, I'd rather be with him than anywhere else. She smiled at me. That's how you know, dear. When someone becomes your home. I couldn't look at Ethan after that. A week before the wedding, Amanda cornered me in the library. I'd been hiding there, overwhelmed by Catherine's endless demands for dress fittings and flower approvals. Can we talk? Amanda asked, closing the door behind her. My stomach dropped. Of course. She studied me for a long moment. I like you, Olivia. You're genuine in a way most people in our world aren't. You make Gran happy, which makes me grateful.
She paused.
But I'm not sure you're really in love with my brother. My heart stopped. What? Don't. She held up a hand. I'm not going to call you out or make a scene. I just want the truth. Are you doing this for the money? I could lie. Should lie. But something about Amanda's directness demanded honesty. It's complicated. It always is. She sat in the chair across from me. Look, I don't care what arrangement you and Ethan have. Honestly, if he found someone willing to pretend to be in love with him to make Gran happy, good for him. He's been miserable since the diagnosis. You knew. I'm not stupid. Ethan doesn't do spontaneous. He doesn't do whirlwind romances. And he definitely doesn't keep relationships secret. She leaned forward. But here's the thing. Gran doesn't know it's fake. To her, this is real. Her grandson found love. She's dying happy. So you're okay with lying to her? I'm okay with giving her peace. There's a difference. Amanda's expression softened. Just promise me something. Don't hurt him. Whatever this arrangement is, whatever you're getting out of it, don't let it destroy Ethan in the process. I'm not trying to hurt anyone, but you will. Probably both of you will hurt each other. That's what happens when lies become this complicated. She stood. Just be careful. Both of you. After she left, I sat alone in the library, surrounded by books, and wondered which lies were merciful and which were just poison in a prettier package. The wedding dress fitting was torture. Catherine had selected a designer, a style, everything without my input. The dress was beautiful. I couldn't deny that, but it wasn't me. Too grand, too expensive, too much for a wedding that wasn't real. You look stunning, the seamstress said, pinning the hem. I stared at myself in the mirror. This stranger in white silk and lace, playing dress-up in someone else's life. Olivia? Ethan's voice from outside the fitting room. Can I come in? Isn't it bad luck for the groom to see the dress? We're already lying to everyone I love. I think we're past worrying about luck. Fair point. Come in. He entered, stopped dead, and just stared. You look beautiful. Something in his voice made me look at him. Really look at him. He stood frozen in the doorway, his expression unguarded in a way I'd never seen. Ethan. Could you give us a moment? He asked the seamstress, who quickly excused herself. The door clicked shut, leaving us alone. He moved closer, and I fought the urge to step back. This is real to her, he said quietly. To Gran, to my family, this wedding is real. You're really going to be my wife, even if it's temporary, even if it's fake. And you're going to stand there in that dress and promise to love me forever, knowing it's all a lie. That's the arrangement. I know. But standing here, seeing you like this. He trailed off, jaw tight.
I'm sorry.
This isn't fair to you. You're paying me $500,000. Fair doesn't really apply. Doesn't it? His eyes met mine in the mirror. You're giving up more than time, Olivia. You're giving up the chance at a real wedding someday, a real marriage. Those vows you say to me, you'll never get them back. I'll have them annulled or divorced or whatever. It's just paperwork. Is it? Because it doesn't feel like paperwork right now. We stared at each other's reflections, and I realized he was right. Somewhere between the hospital room and this fitting room, between the arranged agreement and the practiced affection, something had shifted. This didn't feel like business anymore. We should maintain boundaries, I said firmly. Remember what this is. Business. Exactly. Business. But the way he was looking at me, like I was breaking his heart in a wedding dress, suggested we'd already crossed lines we couldn't uncross. The night before the wedding, I couldn't sleep. Ethan was beside me, the pillow wall between us, both of us pretending the other was asleep. Finally, I gave up. Are you awake? I whispered.
Yeah.
Are we making a huge mistake? Silence stretched between us. Then, probably. That's not reassuring. I don't have reassurance to offer. He shifted, and I felt the mattress move. Tomorrow we get married. In front of my family, my grandmother, we're going to promise forever. And we both know it's temporary. Temporary, I echoed. Right. But here's what I keep thinking about. His voice was quiet, thoughtful. What if giving Gran this peace, this joy, what if that matters more than the truth? What if sometimes the merciful thing is the lie? I don't know anymore. I turned onto my side, facing his direction in the darkness. I came here for money.
To save my family.
But your grandmother, she's dying believing in something beautiful. Is that wrong? I think it's complicated. Everything about this is complicated. More silence. Then his hand found mine in the dark, fingers intertwining over the pillow wall. Thank you, he said quietly. For doing this. For giving her this gift. I'm being paid. I don't care about the money right now. Thank you for being kind to her. For making her last days happy. That's worth more than any contract. I squeezed his hand, and we lay there in the darkness, holding on to each other across the barrier we'd built. Ethan? I whispered. What happens after? When this is over, we go back to our lives. You return to Seattle, debt-free and ready to move forward. I stay here and run the company. We maybe email occasionally, keep things cordial for appearance's sake. And that's it? We just pretend this never happened. That's the plan. Does it feel like the plan to you right now? He was quiet for so long I thought he wouldn't answer. Then, no. It doesn't. But neither of us let go of the other's hand. And when I finally fell asleep, I dreamed of tomorrow, of white dresses and broken promises and gray eyes that saw too much. The wedding day dawned perfect and terrible. I woke alone. Ethan had already left to get ready in another wing of the house. Traditional, his note said. See you at the altar. Amanda and Catherine descended like a well-dressed hurricane, armed with hairstylists, makeup artists, and enough hairspray to punch a hole in the ozone layer. I sat still and let them transform me into someone I barely recognized. You're shaking, Amanda murmured as she helped me into the dress. Nervous. About marrying Ethan? Or about everything else? I met her eyes in the mirror. Both. She smiled sadly. At least you're honest. The ceremony was in the garden. Eleanor's request. Small, intimate, just family and a handful of close friends. Orchids everywhere, of course. A string quartet playing something classical and beautiful. The kind of wedding that belonged in magazines. I stood at the back of the garden, arm linked with Richard Monroe. Ethan's father had volunteered to give me away since mine couldn't be here. Another lie, another complication. Ready? Richard asked.
No. Good.
Shows you're smart. He patted my hand awkwardly. My son is difficult, but he's a good man. Try to remember that in the hard times. This is a business arrangement, I said before I could stop myself. Is it? His eyes were knowing. Then you're both better actors than I thought. The music changed my cue. Richard led me forward, and suddenly I could see Ethan at the end of the aisle, standing beneath an arch of white orchids. He wore a perfectly tailored suit, but it was his expression that stopped my heart. He looked terrified, and awed, and something else I couldn't name. I forced myself to walk, one step at a time, past the small gathering of guests. Catherine, dabbing her eyes with a handkerchief. Amanda, smiling encouragingly. And Eleanor, in a wheelchair with her nurse beside her, looking so happy it physically hurt to see. Then I was there, standing in front of Ethan, and Richard placed my hand in his. Take care of each other, Richard said quietly, then stepped away. The officiant began speaking, something about love and commitment and forever. I barely heard it. I was too focused on Ethan's hand holding mine, his thumb tracing circles on my palm like he was trying to calm me. Or maybe himself. The couple has chosen to write their own vows, the officiant said. Ethan? Ethan turned to face me fully, still holding my hands. His eyes were storm gray and intense, looking at me like I was the only person in the world. Olivia, he began, his voice steady despite everything. 3 months ago, I didn't believe in fate. I believed in planning, in strategy, in controlling outcomes. Then you walked into my life and proved me wrong about everything. My breath caught. This wasn't the vow we'd rehearsed. You've shown me that sometimes the best things are the ones we don't plan for. The unexpected moments, the surprising connections, the people who see us, really see us, not just what we show the world. His grip tightened on my hands. You make me want to be more than the Monroe heir, more than the CEO. You make me want to be the man you see when you look at me. Oh God. He was going off script, making this sound real, and I could feel Eleanor crying behind me. I promise to protect you, to support you, to stand beside you in whatever comes. I promise to be worthy of the trust you've placed in me. And I promise that loving you will be the easiest promise I ever keep. The lie was so beautiful it felt like truth. Olivia, the officiant prompted. I stared at Ethan, my practiced words forgotten. I was supposed to keep this simple, safe, obviously fake to anyone who looked close. But Eleanor was watching. Amanda was watching. And Ethan was looking at me like I was breaking his heart and healing it simultaneously. I'm not good at this, I started, my voice shaking. The big gestures, the pretty words. I'm a nurse. I deal in practical things, medication schedules and vital signs, and making sure people take care of themselves. A ripple of gentle laughter from the guests. But you, Ethan Monroe, you make me want to believe in impractical things. In timing that feels like fate. In connections that happen too fast to make sense. In the kind of love that's inconvenient and complicated and absolutely terrifying. I squeezed his hands, feeling tears threaten. You see me on my worst days, exhausted, cranky, wearing scrubs that haven't been washed in too long, and you look at me like I'm something precious, like I matter. His eyes were bright now, suspiciously bright. So, I promise to see you too. Not the billionaire, not the CEO, not the Monroe name. Just Ethan. The man who works too hard and forgets to eat and has a grandmother he'd do anything for. My voice cracked. The man who's become my home when I wasn't looking for one. Eleanor's sob was audible now. I promise to love you through the complicated parts, through the times when it doesn't make sense, through everything that comes after this moment. I promise to be your home too. Silence fell over the garden. Even the birds seemed to have stopped singing. The rings, the officiant said gently. Amanda handed me a platinum band, simple, elegant, chosen by Catherine. My hands shook as I slid it onto Ethan's finger. He took my ring from his best man, his college roommate, flown in just for this, and held it poised at my finger. With this ring, he said quietly, I thee wed. It slid on smoothly, fitting perfectly beside my engagement ring, locking me into this beautiful lie. By the power vested in me by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, the officiant announced, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride. This was it. The moment we'd been dreading and anticipating. Our first real kiss, in front of everyone, sealing the lie. Ethan stepped closer, his hand coming up to cup my face. Okay, he whispered, so quiet only I could hear. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He leaned in slowly, giving me time to pull away. But I didn't. I let him close the distance, let his lips meet mine in a kiss that was supposed to be for show, but felt like falling. It was gentle, chaste, appropriate for the audience. But there was heat underneath, promise, something that made my knees weak and my heart race. His hand tightened on my waist, pulling me infinitesimally closer, and I heard myself make a small sound against his mouth. When we finally pulled apart, the garden erupted in applause. But I barely heard it. I was too busy staring at Ethan, at the way he was looking at me like something fundamental had just shifted. Husband, I whispered. Wife, he responded, and the words sounded like a prayer and a curse. The reception was a blur. Champagne toasts, a cake I didn't remember tasting, Eleanor crying happy tears as she held both our hands. Ethan and I moved through it like dancers who'd practiced the steps, his arm around my waist, my head on his shoulder, the perfect picture of newlywed bliss. But every touch felt electric now. Every brush of his hand against mine sent sparks up my arm. That kiss had changed something, broken through whatever professional distance we'd maintained. Dance with your bride, Eleanor called out when the music started. Ethan led me to the makeshift dance floor, pulling me into his arms as the quartet played something slow and romantic. This close, I could feel his heart racing against my palm on his chest. You went off script, I murmured as we swayed. So did you. Your grandmother needed to believe it. Is that why you did it? His hand spread across my lower back, warm through the silk. Or was there another reason? I looked up at him, at this man who is now legally my husband, and I couldn't find a safe answer. Does it matter? It might. His eyes searched mine. That kiss, Olivia. That wasn't just for show. It had to be believable. It was more than believable. It was. He trailed off, jaw tight. We need to be careful. Careful of what? Of forgetting this is temporary. Of letting it become real when it can't be. But the way he was holding me, the way his thumb was tracing patterns on my back, suggested it might already be too late for careful. The song ended, and other people claimed us. Catherine insisting on a mother-son dance, Amanda pulling me aside for champagne and knowing looks. By the time the sun started to set, I was exhausted from smiling, from pretending, from the weight of the rings on my finger. Eleanor had been taken back inside an hour ago, tired but glowing. Before she left, she'd pulled me close and whispered, "Thank you for loving my boy. Thank you for giving him a reason to believe in happiness." The guilt had nearly choked me. Now, as the last guests filtered away and the staff began cleanup, Ethan found me sitting alone by the orchid arch. "Hey, wife." "Hey, husband." The words felt surreal. We did it. We did. He sat beside me, loosening his tie. Gran looked happy. She did. I stared at my rings, catching the fading light. We gave her what she wanted. Yeah. He was quiet for a moment. "Olivia, about what I said during the vows. It was perfect. Very convincing. That's not what I meant." He turned to face me. "I meant every word. That's the problem." My heart stopped. "Ethan, I know this is supposed to be business. Temporary. Clean and simple." He ran a hand through his hair, frustration evident. "But standing there today, saying those words, kissing you, it didn't feel fake. It felt like the most honest thing I've ever done. We can't do this." I stood, needing distance. "We have an arrangement. A contract. This is complicated."
I know. You keep saying that.
He stood too, moving closer. "But maybe complicated is okay. Maybe we don't have to have all the answers right now." "Yes, we do. Because in 3 months, maybe less, your grandmother will be gone. And then what? We get divorced and pretend this never happened." "I don't know." "Well, I do. That's exactly what happens. Because I'm not the girl who marries billionaires, Ethan. I'm not part of your world. This, I gestured at the garden, the house, everything. This isn't my life. It's a role I'm playing. What if it doesn't have to be?" His voice was intense, urgent. "What if we actually gave this a chance? Saw where it could go?" "Based on what? Lies? A business arrangement? Great foundation for a real relationship. Based on the fact that I can't stop thinking about you. That waking up next to you has become the best part of my day. That kissing you today felt like coming home." He caught my hands. "Based on the fact that you feel it too. I know you do." I wanted to deny it. Should deny it. But I was tired of lying, even to myself. It doesn't matter what I feel. This has an expiration date. Only if we let it. Your grandmother is dying, Ethan. That's not something we let happen or not. When she's gone, what's my excuse for staying? How do we explain to your family that the marriage is real now when it started as a lie? We figured out. Together. There is no together. You live in Boston and run a billion-dollar company. I'm a nurse in Seattle with a life I put on hold. I pulled my hands away. In 3 months, I go back to my life and you stay in yours. That was always the deal. Deals can change. Not this one. Not when people's hearts are at stake. I stepped back, needing space to breathe. I'm going to bed. Alone. In the guest room. Olivia. Good night, Ethan. Thank you for the lovely wedding. I walked away before I could see his expression, before I could let him see mine. Before I could admit that he was right, I did feel it. The connection, the heat, the dangerous pull toward something that could never last. I was falling for my fake husband, and that was a complication that could destroy everything. The next morning brought a new disaster. I woke in the guest room to frantic knocking. Olivia, open up. Amanda's voice, sharp with panic. I threw open the door. What? It's Gran. She had a bad night. The hospice nurse says. Amanda's voice cracked. She's asking for you both. Now. I didn't bother changing out of my pajamas, just grabbed a robe and ran. Ethan met us in the hallway, looking as panicked as I felt. Together, we rushed to Eleanor's room. The change was striking. Yesterday, she'd been glowing, vibrant despite her illness. Now she looked fragile as paper, her breathing labored, machines beeping frantically. Gran. Ethan was at her bedside immediately, taking her hand. Eleanor's eyes fluttered open, focusing on him with effort. There's my boy, and my beautiful daughter.
She smiled weakly at me.
Come closer, Olivia. I moved to the other side of the bed, taking her free hand. It was cold, so cold. The wedding, Eleanor whispered. It was perfect. You were perfect. Both of you. A tear slid down her weathered cheek. I can go now, knowing you have each other, knowing you'll take care of my boy. Don't talk like that, Ethan said roughly. You're going to be fine. Sweetheart. We both know better. She squeezed our hands with what little strength she had. Promise me. Promise you'll fight for this love. It's rare, what you have. Don't let it slip away. The guilt was a knife in my chest. She was dying believing in our lie, using her last breaths to bless a marriage that would dissolve the moment she was gone. We promise, I heard myself say, tears streaming down my face. We promise, Eleanor.
Good.
Her eyes drifted closed. That's good. Harold's calling me. I can hear him. It's time. Gran, no. Ethan's voice broke. But Eleanor Monroe slipped away peacefully, a smile on her face, her hands in ours. The room filled with the sound of the flatline alarm, and then chaos. Nurses rushing in, the doctor, Catherine's wail of grief. But through it all, Ethan and I stood frozen, holding hands across Eleanor's body, locked together by promises we couldn't keep and grief that was all too real. She died happy, believing we loved each other. And that should have been enough. So why did it feel like we'd lost something more than a grandmother? Why did it feel like we'd lost our excuse to keep pretending, and now had to face what was actually real? Chapter 3. Complications and Truth. They say the truth will set you free. What they don't mention is that sometimes freedom is the last thing you want. Eleanor's funeral was 3 days later, and I never felt more like an imposter in my life. I stood beside Ethan in the front pew of the church, wearing a black dress Catherine had selected, holding my husband's hand while he grieved. Around us, hundreds of people paid their respects to a woman they'd known for decades, while I'd known her for barely 3 weeks. But I'd made her happy. That had to count for something. You okay? I whispered to Ethan as the service began. His fingers tightened on mine.
No.
At least he was honest. The priest spoke about Eleanor's life, her service as a nurse during the war, her 53-year marriage to Harold, her devotion to family. When it was Ethan's turn to speak, he stood on shaking legs, and I had to fight every instinct not to follow him to the pulpit. My grandmother raised me, he began, voice hoarse. When my parents were busy building an empire, Gran taught me how to tie my shoes, how to read, how to be a decent human being. His eyes found mine across the church. She also taught me about love. Real love. The kind that's patient and kind and fights through the hard times. My throat tightened. She died happy, believing I'd found that love. And I. His voice cracked. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to be worthy of the faith she had in me. When he returned to the pew, he collapsed against me, and I held him while he shook with silent sobs. Around us, the Monroe family maintained their composure, but Ethan fell apart in my arms, and I realized this was real. His grief, his pain, this wasn't part of the arrangement. This was just a man who'd lost the person he loved most. I've got you, I whispered, running my fingers through his hair. I've got you. And in that moment I meant it. Contract be damned. The wake was held at the Monroe estate, a subdued affair with too many people in dark clothing making polite conversation. Ethan disappeared into his office halfway through, needing space, and I was left to navigate alone. You were good for her. Richard Monroe appeared at my elbow, holding a whiskey. Mother was happy at the end. That matters. Thank you. How long are you staying? In Boston, I mean. His eyes were too knowing. Surely you have a job to get back to. A life. I'm on leave for 3 months. I'll stay as long as Ethan needs me. Very devoted. He took a sip of his drink. Tell me, Olivia, are you actually in love with my son, or is this an arrangement?
I nearly choked on my wine.
Excuse me? I'm not judging. God knows the Monroes have arranged plenty of beneficial relationships over the years. But Ethan's grieving. If this is just business, you should leave before he gets too attached. What makes you think this isn't real? Because I know my son. He doesn't do spontaneous. He doesn't fall in love in a month. And he definitely doesn't get married without a prenup unless there's a compelling reason. Richard's gaze was sharp. Mother's peace of mind was compelling. The question is, what happens now that she's gone? That's between me and Ethan. Fair enough. He set down his glass. Just don't break him. He's stronger than he looks, but everyone has a limit. He walked away, leaving me standing there with the horrible realization that Ethan's own father had seen through us. How many others had? I found Amanda in the kitchen, supervising the catering staff. Can we talk? She nodded, leading me to a small office off the main hall. Let me guess. Dad cornered you? He knows. Of course he knows. He's not stupid. Amanda sank into a chair. But he also loved Gran, and seeing her happy those last weeks, that was worth any arrangement. So, everyone knew this was fake? I can't speak for everyone. But the people who matter? Yeah, we figured it out. She met my eyes. The question is it still fake? What do you mean? Come on, Olivia. I saw you two at the wedding. That wasn't acting. And the way you held him during the funeral? She shook her head. That's not contractual obligation. That's real. It doesn't matter what's real. The arrangement is over. Eleanor's gone, and I'm supposed to go back to Seattle. But you don't want to. It wasn't a question. What I want doesn't matter. This was a business deal. 3 months, probably less. Well, it's been less. My family's house is saved. Ethan got to make his grandmother happy, and now it's over. Except you fell in love with him. The words hung in the air between us. I wanted to deny them, but Amanda's knowing look stopped me. It doesn't matter, I said finally. Love doesn't change the facts. He's a billionaire CEO with a life here. I'm a nurse with a life in Seattle. We exist in different worlds. So build a bridge between them. It's not that simple. Why not? You're already married. You clearly have feelings for each other. Why can't this just be real? Because it started as a lie. Because his grandmother died believing in something that didn't exist. Because I'm terrified that if I stay, I'll lose myself in his world and forget who I am. I need to go, I said instead. Ethan needs me. I found him in his office, staring at his laptop without really seeing it. He looked exhausted, hollowed out by grief. Hey, I said softly from the doorway. He looked up, and something in his expression cracked. I keep forgetting she's gone. I'll think of something to tell her, and then I remember. I crossed to him, pulling him into a hug without thinking. He wrapped his arms around my waist, burying his face against my stomach as I stood between his legs. I miss her, he said, voice muffled. And I'm so fucking angry that our last real conversation was about our fake relationship. She died happy, Ethan. That's what matters. Does it? Because right now it feels like we lied to her, and she'll never know the truth. I ran my fingers through his hair, the gesture becoming familiar. What is the truth? We stood in front of everyone and got married. You're wearing my ring. I'm wearing yours. How is that fake? He pulled back to look at me. You know how. Do I? Because your dad and Amanda both think this is real now. They think we fell for each other despite the arrangement. Did we? His eyes searched mine. Fall for each other? This was it. The moment I could admit the truth or walk away. Play it safe or risk everything. I don't know, I whispered. I don't know what's real anymore. His hands came up to cup my face. Then let's figure it out. Together. No contracts, no timelines. Just us, seeing where this goes. Ethan.
Stay.
At least through the 3 months. We're married, Olivia. Let's see if it can actually work. And if it doesn't, if we try and it falls apart, then we divorce like planned. But at least we'll know we tried. I should have said no. Should have protected my heart and walked away. But looking at him, this man who'd become so much more than a business arrangement, I couldn't do it. Okay, I breathed. Okay, we try. His kiss was fierce and grateful and terrifying. This wasn't for show. This wasn't for his grandmother. This was just us, finally honest about what we wanted. And what we wanted was each other. The next 2 months were an education in what real could look like. Ethan taught me his world. Charity galas where I learned to make small talk with people who wore my annual salary, board meetings where I sat in the back and watched him command a room, quiet dinners at restaurants where the chef knew his name. I taught him mine shifts at a local hospital where I'd volunteered, helping my parents organize their medical bills over video calls, showing him what normal people worried about when their bank accounts had commas instead of zeros. We fought.
God, did we fight?
About his work hours, about my insistence on paying for things even though I couldn't afford his lifestyle, about whether I should move to Boston permanently, or if we should try long distance. You can't keep pretending you're not married to a billionaire, he snapped during one argument. Let me pay for things. Let me take care of you. I don't need taken care of. I need partnership, not a benefactor. Then be my partner. Stop keeping one foot out the door, like you're ready to run. Maybe I am ready to run. Maybe this is too much, too fast, and I don't know how to be Olivia Chen and Mrs. Ethan Monroe at the same time. He'd stared at me, chest heaving. Then quietly, figured out. Because I love you, and I'm tired of pretending I don't. The words had stopped me dead.
What?
I love you. He crossed to me, taking my face in his hands. I fell for you somewhere between the hospital and the wedding, and I'm done pretending this is just an arrangement that turned into something more. I love you, Olivia. All of you. The stubborn, independent, beautiful, maddening woman who agreed to fake marry me and somehow became the most real thing in my life. Tears streamed down my face. Ethan. You don't have to say it back. Not until you're sure. But I needed you to know. I'd kissed him instead of answering, and we'd made love for the first time. No contracts, no audiences, just us. It was clumsy and perfect and terrifying, and afterward, lying in his arms, I'd finally admitted the truth to myself. I loved him too, but saying it out loud felt like giving up the last piece of my independence. Admitting that this fake arrangement had become the most real thing in my life. Accepting that I'd fallen for a man so far outside my world that I didn't know how we'd ever make it work. The break came 2.5 months in at a charity gala. I'd worn a dress Ethan bought. Designer, expensive, beautiful. I'd smiled and made small talk with his business associates. I'd played the part of Mrs. Monroe perfectly. Too perfectly, apparently. You look miserable, Amanda said, finding me hiding on a balcony. I'm fine.
You're really not.
She leaned against the railing beside me. You're playing a role again. Just a different one. What are you talking about? With Gran, you were playing Ethan's devoted fiancé. Now you're playing the society wife who belongs in this world. But Olivia, you don't have to pretend anymore. Gran's gone. The arrangement is over. If you're staying, stay as yourself. What if myself doesn't fit here? Then maybe here needs to change to fit you. She squeezed my arm. Or maybe you and Ethan need to build something new. Something that's actually yours, not just his world you're trying to inhabit. Inside, I could see Ethan through the windows, laughing with some board members. He looked happy, confident in his element. And I realized Amanda was right. I was trying to fit into his life instead of us building one together. That night, I told him I was going back to Seattle. What? He stared at me like I'd slapped him. Why? Because I can't keep doing this. Playing dress up in your world, pretending I belong here. You do belong here. You're my wife. A wife you hired. Let's not forget how this started, Ethan. That's not fair. We're past that. Are we? Because from where I'm standing, I'm still the girl you're paying to play a role. It's just a different role now. That's bullshit and you know it. I love you.
I've told you that.
I know. My voice cracked. I know you do. But I don't know who I am anymore. I don't know if I'm Olivia Chen who worked herself to exhaustion to save her family, or Mrs. Ethan Monroe who wears designer dresses and makes small talk at galas. And I need to figure that out before I can be in this marriage for real. So figure it out here. With me. I can't. Every time I try, I'm surrounded by your world, your expectations, your life. I need space to remember who I was before all this. How much space?
His voice was raw.
How long? I don't know. The 3 months are almost up anyway. Maybe we use that time apart. I go back to Seattle, back to my job. You stay here. We see if this is real without the proximity, without the pressure. That's running away. That's survival. I took off my wedding ring, and he actually flinched. I'm not saying it's over. I'm saying I need time. Don't. He caught my hand before I could set the ring down.
Keep it, please.
You're still my wife. Don't take that off like it means nothing. It means everything. That's the problem. But I slid the ring back on, and some of the panic left his eyes. I flew back to Seattle 3 days later. Ethan didn't try to stop me, though I saw the devastation in his face as he loaded my luggage into the car. I'll call you, I said at the airport. When? When you've decided whether you want to stay married to me? That's not. That's exactly what this is, Olivia. You're deciding if I'm worth it. If we're worth it. He pulled me into a fierce hug. I already know my answer. I'll wait as long as it takes for you to know yours. The kiss he gave me was desperate and tender, like he was trying to memorize the taste of me. And then I was walking away, toward security, toward home, leaving my husband behind. My apartment felt like a museum of my old life. Everything exactly as I'd left it 3 months ago, but I was completely different now. I'd left as Olivia Chen, struggling nurse with a family in crisis. I was returning as Olivia Monroe, wife to a billionaire, trying to figure out who she was supposed to be. My first shift back at the hospital was surreal. Same hallways, same routines, but I kept reaching for a phone to text Ethan, kept expecting to see him around corners. You look different, Sarah from the nurses' station said. Good different. That training program must have been amazing. Yeah, I lied, staring at the rings on my finger. It was life-changing. That night, I finally called my parents to tell them the truth. My father answered on the second ring. Olivia, we've missed you. How is Boston? Dad, I need to tell you something. I wasn't really at a training program. Silence. Then, what? So, I told them everything. The arrangement, the fake engagement, the real wedding, falling for Ethan despite myself. The money that had saved their house wasn't a bonus. It was payment for a lie that became truth. More silence. I waited for anger, disappointment, something. Oh, sweetheart, my mother's voice joined on speaker. That's quite a story. I'm sorry I lied. I couldn't let you lose the house. And the arrangement seemed like the only solution. Are you happy? My father interrupted. What? With this Ethan. Are you happy? I thought about waking up next to him, about his rare smiles, about the way he looked at me like I was the answer to everything. When I'm with him, yes. But I don't know if I can be happy in his world long term. Then make him come to yours, my mother said simply. Or build a new world together. But don't give up on love because you're scared, Olivia. We didn't raise you to run from things that matter. He's a billionaire, Mom. I'm a nurse. We're from different universes. Your father was an immigrant who barely spoke English. I was a ranch girl from Montana. We made it work because we chose to.
Her voice was firm.
The question isn't whether you fit in his world. It's whether you love him enough to build one that fits both of you. After I hung up, I sat in my tiny apartment, so different from the mansion in Boston, and finally let myself cry. For Eleanor, who died believing in our love. For Ethan, who I'd left behind. For myself, lost between two lives and unsure which one I actually wanted. My phone buzzed. A text from Ethan, missing you. Office feels empty, without you hiding from my mother. I smiled through my tears and typed back. Missing you too. How's the company? Profitable. Boring. Would be better if my wife was here. Your wife is having an existential crisis in a studio apartment. Want company for your crisis? My heart jumped. You're in Seattle? Been here for 2 days. Staying at a hotel downtown. Didn't want to pressure you, but I needed to be close. In case you needed me.
He'd followed me.
This billionaire CEO had abandoned his empire to be near me while I figured out my life. What hotel? I typed. The Fairmont Olympic. Room 2147. But Olivia, no pressure. I meant what I said. I'll wait. I looked around my apartment, at the life I'd left behind, the life I'd been trying to reclaim. But it didn't fit anymore. I'd changed too much, wanted different things now. Or maybe I'd always wanted them, and Ethan had just given me permission to dream bigger. I grabbed my keys and headed for the door. Ethan answered his hotel room door in sweatpants and a t-shirt, looking more rumpled than I'd ever seen him. His eyes widened when he saw me. Olivia. I kissed him, cutting off whatever he was going to say. He responded immediately, pulling me into the room and kicking the door closed without breaking contact. I love you. I gasped between kisses. I'm sorry it took me so long to say it. I love you, Ethan Monroe. Not your money, not your company, not the Monroe name. Just you. Thank God. He picked me up, and I wrapped my legs around his waist as he carried me further into the room. I've been going insane without you. You followed me to Seattle. I told you I'd wait. I just didn't specify where I'd wait. He set me down on the bed, bracing himself above me. I miss waking up next to you. Even when you steal all the blankets and kick me in your sleep. I don't kick. You absolutely do. It's adorable and violent. I laughed, pulling him down for another kiss. I don't know how to make this work. The logistics of our lives are impossible. So, we figure out new logistics. He rolled to his side, taking my hand. I can run Monroe Industries from anywhere. Board meetings are virtual half the time anyway. What if I moved here? To Seattle? You'd leave Boston? For you? In a heartbeat. Boston has my company. You're my home. Tears blurred my vision. I can't ask you to give up your life. You're not asking. I'm offering. We'll find a house here. Something that's ours, not the Monroe estate. You keep your job. I'll commute to Boston when necessary. We build a life that actually fits both of us. What about your family? What about them? My mother will adjust. Amanda already likes you more than me. And Dad. He smiled slightly. Dad respects people who know what they want. You want a real marriage, not a society arrangement. He'll appreciate that. This is insane. We started with insane. Why stop now? He kissed my forehead, my nose, my lips. Marry me again, Olivia.
For real this time.
No contracts, no audiences, no dying grandmothers to convince. Just us, choosing each other. We're already married. Then renew our vows. Make new promises that are actually ours. His thumb traced my cheekbone. I love you. I want to build a life with you. A real one. Will you let me? I thought about Eleanor, who died believing in our love. About the vows we'd made in that garden. Lies wrapped in truth. About how sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places. Yes, I whispered. Yes, I'll marry you again. For real this time. His kiss was everything. Relief and joy and promise. We made love slowly, taking our time. No urgency except the need to be close. Afterward, tangled together in hotel sheets, I traced the lines of his face. I was terrified, I admitted, of losing myself in your world, of becoming just Mrs. Monroe instead of Olivia Chen. So, don't choose. Be both. Be Olivia Chen Monroe, nurse and wife, stubborn and generous, mine and yours. He caught my hand, kissing my palm. I fell in love with the woman who yelled at me for being a difficult patient. Don't lose her just because you married me. I won't. But you have to let me pay for groceries sometimes. Never. That's where I draw the line. I laughed, swatting his chest. Compromise, remember? That's how marriages work.
Fine.
You can pay for groceries. I'll pay for everything else. Ethan. Olivia. He pulled me closer, suddenly serious. Let me take care of you. Not because you need it, but because I want to. Because making your life easier makes me happy. Okay. Okay, I agreed softly. But I'm still working. I'm still a nurse. I wouldn't want you any other way. We stayed in that hotel room for 2 more days, ordering room service and talking about our future. Real plans this time, finding a house in Seattle with space for both our lives, setting up a home office for Ethan, figuring out how to split time between Boston and Seattle for family obligations. It felt possible now, like we were building something that could actually last. On the 3rd day, we drove to Edmonds to see my parents. Are you nervous? I asked as we pulled up to the modest blue house that had started this whole arrangement. Terrified. What if they hate me? They won't hate you. They might be intimidated, but they won't hate you. My mother opened the door before we reached it, her eyes going wide. Olivia. And you must be Ethan. Mrs. Chen. Ethan extended his hand, but my mother pulled him into a hug instead. None of that formal nonsense. You're family now. Come in, come in. My father waited in his chair by the window, the stroke having left him weaker, but his mind still sharp. He studied Ethan with those knowing eyes as we entered. So you're the billionaire my daughter fake married. Dad. I protested.
What?
We're past pretending now. He gestured to the sofa.
Sit.
Tell me why I should trust you with my daughter. Ethan sat, taking my hand naturally. You shouldn't. Not based on trust one haven't earned. But I can tell you that Olivia is the best thing that's ever happened to me. She's made me want to be better than I am. And I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve her. My father's expression softened slightly. That's a good answer. But words are easy. Actions matter. I agree. Which is why I'm moving to Seattle. Building a life here with Olivia. Making sure she never has to choose between her family and our marriage. Another good answer.
My father looked at me.
You love him. Yes. Does he treat you well? He does. Then that's all I need to know. He extended his hand to Ethan. Welcome to the family, son. My mother insisted we stay for dinner. Simple food, nothing fancy, but filled with love and laughter. Ethan fit in surprisingly well, helping wash dishes and listening to my father's stories about immigrating to America. Watching him in my childhood home, laughing at my mother's jokes, I felt something settle in my chest. This could work. We could actually make this work. 3 weeks later, we stood in a tiny chapel in Seattle. Just family, just friends. Nothing like the elaborate Monroe wedding. I wore a simple white dress I'd picked myself. Ethan wore a suit but no tie, looking more relaxed than I'd ever seen him. Ready? My father asked, offering his arm. So ready. The chapel was intimate, maybe 30 people total. My nursing friends, my parents, Amanda, who'd flown in to be my maid of honor again. Even Catherine and Richard had come, though Catherine looked slightly scandalized by the venue's lack of grandeur. But none of that mattered. Because at the end of that short aisle stood Ethan, looking at me like I was his entire world. This time, when I walked toward him, I wasn't scared. I was choosing this, choosing him, choosing us. Hi, I whispered when I reached him. Hi, wife. His smile was soft. Ready to do this for real? So ready, husband. The officiant, a friend of my mother's, smiled at us. I understand you've written your own vows. Again. 3rd time's the charm, Ethan said, making everyone laugh. He took my hands, and this time, there was no fear in his eyes. Just love. Olivia, the first time I said vows to you, I was playing a role, saying words that were designed to convince everyone of a lie. His voice was steady, sure. Today, I'm just being honest. I love you. Not because it's convenient, not because of any arrangement, but because you walked into my life and made me want to be more than what I was. I smiled through happy tears. You showed me that success isn't about building empires, it's about building a life worth living. You taught me that love doesn't fit in spreadsheets or 5-year plans. And you proved that sometimes the best things come from the most unexpected places.
He squeezed my hands.
I promise to build a life with you, not for you. To be your partner, not your benefactor. To love you on your worst days as fiercely as I do on your best. And to never, ever forget that marrying you was the smartest business decision I've ever made. Laughter rippled through the chapel. Your turn, he said softly. I took a breath. Ethan, I came to Boston for money. Let's just be honest about that. More laughter, this time mixed with Catherine's scandalized gasp. But I stayed for love. Somewhere between the fake engagement and the real wedding, between the lies and the truth, I fell for you. For the man who works too hard but loves even harder. For the grandson who'd do anything to make his grandmother happy. For the husband who followed me to Seattle because he couldn't stand to be apart. His eyes were bright now. I promise to let you take care of me, even though I'm stubborn about it. To build a life with you that honors both our worlds. To be your home, like you've become mine. And to never forget that sometimes, the best love stories start with the most ridiculous circumstances. We were both crying now, laughing and crying simultaneously. I now pronounce you husband and wife, the officiant said.
Again.
For real this time. Finally, Ethan breathed and kissed me. This kiss was different from all the others. Not for show, not for family, not to convince anyone of anything. Just us, choosing each other, promising forever. When we finally pulled apart, the chapel erupted in applause.
My mother was sobbing.
My father was grinning. Amanda was filming on her phone, probably to show anyone who'd ever doubted us. Come on, wife, Ethan said, taking my hand. Let's start our actual life together. 6 months later, I woke up in our house, a beautiful craftsman in Ballard with a water view and enough space for both our lives, to find Ethan already awake, watching me with a soft smile. Morning, creeper, I mumbled. Morning, love of my life. Flatterer. But I smiled, stretching. What time is it?
6.
You have a shift at 8. Ugh. I started to get up, but he pulled me back down. 5 more minutes. We never just do 5 minutes. True. He kissed my neck. But I missed you yesterday. Late meeting that ran long. You were already asleep when I got home. I need my Olivia time. I turned in his arms, facing him. Your Olivia time, huh? Absolutely. It's in the marriage contract. Daily Olivia time is mandatory. We don't have a marriage contract anymore. Then I'm writing a new one, with very specific clauses about morning cuddles. I laughed, running my fingers through his hair. It was longer now. He'd relaxed since moving to Seattle, let go of some of the corporate rigidity. He worked from home 3 days a week, flew to Boston when necessary, but made sure he was present for our life. I love you, I said simply. I love you too. He kissed me, soft and sweet. Now go save lives, Nurse Monroe. Chen Monroe, I corrected. I kept my name professionally. Best of both worlds. I got ready for my shift, kissing him goodbye at the door. What are you doing today? Board meeting via video at 10. Lunch with Amanda, she's in town. Then I'm making dinner because my wife is amazing but can't cook to save her life.
Hey.
I can cook. You can make exactly 3 things, and one of them is toast. Toast is versatile. He laughed, pulling me in for another kiss.
Go.
I'll have food ready when you get home. My shift at the hospital was long, but good. I'd taken a position in the cardiac unit at Swedish Medical Center, loving the challenge of critical care. My coworkers knew I was married to Ethan Monroe, kind of hard to hide when your husband occasionally showed up with lunch from restaurants that required reservations months in advance, but they treated me the same. Just Olivia, the nurse who worked hard and cared about her patients. When I got home that night, exhausted and smelling like antiseptic, I found Ethan in the kitchen, cooking pasta from scratch like the show-off he was. How was your day? He asked, not turning from the stove. Long lost a patient in the ICU. 83-year-old, heart attack. Family was devastated. I leaned against the counter. Days like this, I remember why I do this job. Someone has to be there in those final moments. He turned off the stove and pulled me into a hug. I'm sorry. It's okay. Part of the job. I breathed in his scent, expensive cologne mixed with cooking smells. This is nice. Coming home to you. It really is. He pulled back, studying my face. I have something to tell you. My heart jumped. Is everything okay? More than okay. I've been thinking about something Gran said about legacy and what matters. He took my hand. I want to start a foundation for healthcare accessibility, helping people who fall through the cracks of the system. The ones who can't afford treatment, who avoid doctors because they're scared of the bill. Tears pricked my eyes. Ethan, I want you to help run it. Use your nursing experience, your understanding of what people actually need. We'll call it the Eleanor Monroe Foundation. His eyes were bright. She'd have loved knowing her name was helping people get the care they deserve. That's perfect. She would have loved that. There's more. He pulled an envelope from his pocket. I've been putting this together for months. Plans, funding, everything. But I wanted to wait until I was sure you'd say yes. I opened the envelope to find detailed proposals, clinic locations, staffing plans, partnership opportunities with hospitals. It was comprehensive and thoughtful, and exactly the kind of thing that could actually make a difference. When do we start? I asked. Whenever you're ready. He kissed my forehead. We'll do it together. Like everything else. We ate dinner on our back deck, watching the sun set over the water. This life we'd built felt impossible, the fake engagement that became real, the business arrangement that became love, the lie that became the truest thing either of us had ever known. Do you ever regret it? I asked suddenly. The way we started? The lies we told. Ethan was quiet for a moment, considering. I regret lying to Gran, even if it made her happy. I regret that our first vows were just words we memorized. But regret how we met? How we fell in love? He took my hand, pressing a kiss to my knuckles. Never. Every complicated, messy, ridiculous moment led us here. I wouldn't change any of it. Even the part where I left you and ran back to Seattle? Especially that part. Because you came back. You chose this, chose us, chose me. Not because of money or obligation, but because you wanted to. His gray eyes met mine. That's worth everything. We sat there as the stars came out, hands linked, building plans for our foundation and our future. No contracts this time. No expiration dates. Just two people who'd found each other in the most unlikely way and decided to build something real. My phone buzzed, a message from my mother. A photo of my parents in their garden, my father looking healthier than he had in years, with the caption, "Thank you for saving more than just the house. Love you, sweetheart." I showed it to Ethan and he smiled. We did good. We did. I leaned against him, his arm coming around my shoulders naturally. Your grandmother would be proud. Of the foundation. Of US, of all of it. I hope so. His voice was soft. I talk to her sometimes. Tell her about our life, about how you're exactly as wonderful as she thought. I like to think she's somewhere, knowing she was right about us. She was right about love being worth fighting for, about not wasting time. I turned to look at him. Thank you for fighting for us, for following me to Seattle, for being patient while I figured out what I wanted. Thank you for wanting me, for seeing past the money and the name and all the complications. He kissed me, slow and deep, for being exactly who you are and not changing for anyone, even when I'm stubborn and impossible, especially then. He stood, pulling me up with him. Come on, wife. Let's go to bed. It's barely 9. I know. His smile was wicked. But I promise myself daily Olivia time, and I haven't met my quota yet. I laughed, letting him lead me inside, to the bedroom in the house we'd chosen together, in the city where we'd built our life. The engagement ring and wedding band on my finger caught the light, the same rings from that first proposal, but they meant something different now. They weren't symbols of a business arrangement or a fake engagement. They were promises we'd chosen to keep. Vows we'd made real through every day we chose each other. I love you, I whispered as we fell into bed together. I love you too. Ethan pulled me close, and I felt his smile against my hair. Best business deal I ever made. Worst business deal, I corrected. You got a wife who can't cook, who works crazy hours, who argues with you about paying for groceries. And I'd make the same deal 1,000 times over. He tilted my face up to his. You saved my grandmother's final days. You saved me from a life that was all work and no meaning. You saved us both, Olivia. How is that a bad deal? I didn't have an answer, so I kissed him instead. Let actions speak louder than words. Let the promises we kept every day mean more than the vows we'd said. We'd started with a lie, but we'd built something true. And sometimes, that's all love is. Two people choosing each other every day, through every complication, every doubt, every moment when running would be easier than staying.
We chose to stay.
We chose each other. And that made all the difference.